We're finally making this video. Y'all, I'm just going to share. I don't have anything scripted. I have some notes that I tried to write down important things that have taken place since I moved to Texas. But I'm just gonna talk. I'm just gonna share. And I'm gonna tell you right now, this video is probably gonna be long and it may even be 2 parts. I hope not, because honestly, I just wanna get it out and then move on. But I am finally making the video on my life update since moving to Texas a year ago. It's important for me to let you know, as the audience, that listen, this journey has seriously been filled with ups and downs, highs and lows, ebbs and flows. Y'all, it's been a lot. And so it's been a lot. So I'm not gonna filter myself. It's also what made it difficult for me to make this video, because I'm too honest sometimes. When I say that, what I mean is I don't think it's wrong to be honest, but I can't share a video and act like everything was just all perfect all the time. That's not me. That's not what I would do. It's part of the reason I think that there's been a delay in making this, because I needed to go through certain things and certain seasons before I could make this video. I couldn't make it necessarily when I was in the thick of all the hard things. I couldn't make it when everything seemed like it was just oh so wonderful. I am able to make it now because I have literally gone through all 4 seasons. And I'm saying that metaphorically because it's been over a year. And so I've literally experienced summer, fall, winter, and spring, and summer again. Well, technically it's not summer, but you get what I'm saying. I'm ready to share, and I have the time and space to share. I got time today, okay? And a lot of times I literally just haven't had the time to do this, y'all, to really sit and be in this moment. But my kids are gone for the summer. They are spending time with their dad, but we will get to that. So literally I have the time now to make this video. And so for those of you who have been on this journey with me, watching this unfold, I just want to thank you. To be honest, yes, I do make this to encourage, inspire people, but I feel this inward pull where the Lord just wants me to share my journey at times. And so whoever it's for, but it's also healing for me. It's also healing for me and gives me a chance to just kind of video journal, if you will. I don't know what else to call it, but let's go ahead and talk about it. I didn't even make the point that I was trying to make a minute ago. What I was gonna say is this: no matter what I share, I need you to understand that I still trust and believe that God brought me here for a reason, okay? It's important for you to know that. It's important for you to know that through the laughs, the cries, everything, no matter what I do in this video and what I share, I still firmly believe that I was brought here for a reason, that I came here for a reason, and I know that God did it because God has sustained me the entire time. And I know that when we toil and do things in our own power and in our own will, we are the ones having to kind of fight to get things taken care of. And that has not been this. Even though there have been difficult times, I know for a fact that God is the one that has sustained me, and it's because He's the one that placed me here. So anyway, now we can get started. So I can't talk about the day that I arrived without talking about the day that I left Virginia. That was a hard day. That was one of the hardest days of my life, I would say. May 31st, 2024. And not even because oh, I'm leaving Virginia, I'm leaving home. It was an emotional day. There was a lot going on. And there was just a lot. I hadn't had much sleep. Y'all, my apartment wasn't completely packed up yet. I didn't have the help that I needed. Literally on May 31st, the day that I left Virginia, was the last day of school for my kids. And it was my last day working in my contract position as a teacher. So I still had to work that day, but I got off early, because we do half days in Virginia. So anyway, it was a lot. Just finishing my last day of work, saying goodbye to people that I know, man, I may never see them again. People who have like really held me down at the school. Like shout out to all the older Black women specifically who kind of like just had me under their wing throughout the school year. Like I will never ever take for granted that they were there for me. I'm gonna give myself the room to just, you know, do what I need to do in this video. It's not gonna be filtered in that way where I try to hold back and stop myself from feeling what I'm feeling. Super grateful for Miss Howard. Super grateful for Miss Mayers and for Miss Carter and Miss Ryan. So many people who, and Miss Cates, can't forget Miss Cates either. Keita, Kiera, like, y'all, I wouldn't have made it through the school year last year if it wasn't for them. And I wouldn't have made it through that final month if it weren't for them. There was so much going on last May, from police reports. I was dealing with stalking. I was dealing with harassment. It was a lot happening. And it's why I knew, like, it was one of the reasons I knew that I had to leave, at least for a season, right? It was just so much going on, so much, which is why talking about this hasn't been easy. I can't just pop this video out. Like, I have to be able to sit with it, you know? And Miss Jones too. I'm so sorry, Miss Jones also. So the last day, I had to hire movers to come while I was at work because I was not done. Like I had gotten the U-Haul Wednesday or Thursday. May 31st was a Friday. I got the U-Haul Wednesday or Thursday, but I still needed help loading it up. I needed help. My husband / children's father, he obviously was not happy about the move, so he did not help, and it was a lot. I didn't want that for my kids. I'm like, regardless of what's going on with us, and I know that you aren't happy about this, but you should want your kids to see you helping their mom. And it was just a lot, y'all. So I hired movers, and this is an important detail that's gonna come up later. And my mom was at my house because my mom had decided she was gonna come with me to Texas. She was not gonna make me go by myself. I mean, I was just gonna do what God said, right? So it didn't matter to me because I'm like, I have to be obedient. Like I literally knew it was life or death for me, even if that was just on a spiritual level. Although I felt it deeper. And I'm not saying somebody was gonna take me out. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you can sense sometimes when an environment is not good for you and you know you have to go. So it was a lot, okay? And my mom was gonna go. So my mom was at my apartment trying to help me get ready to go. I had one friend that I've known for years who came through to help me, you know, load some things up, to get rid of some things, like just even taking stuff to the garbage that my mom and I, as we were packing, we didn't have time to do all of that. Like, then the garbage was so far away. So just him coming by and taking that stuff out for us was super helpful. I will never forget who came through for me when they did, you know? And so the movers were there. I hired them literally the morning of. I went on an app, like looking for movers, and I found this company. And this guy said, yes, I can send 2 men out to your place. And so that's what I did. And while I was at work, my mom was at the apartment helping the movers get going as far as loading up the U-Haul, because once my kids got out of school, we needed to go. So I get off work. It was also difficult to leave that job because I loved it there. And I really didn't want to leave, even though I was teaching. I was a special education teacher, and I don't really want to get into the details of that on this video. Like, that's not something I wanted to continue to do long term as far as that subject. Love my kids, love working with them. But the politics of public education is something I wrestle with. And so special education, where you have to help kids with literal learning disabilities and other things, like, I just don't always feel like the school system as a whole, I'm not talking about the school that I was in specifically, but the school system as a whole, they're not putting these kids first. And I struggle to watch that. Like, I want to be a part of it because I want to be a part of the change. But then there are so many things that your hands are tied, and so is the administration. So I get off work, I go home. getting the movers, getting them straight. Stuff is happening. And at one point, one of the movers say, so what's going on with your dude? I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, he came by to grab some stuff. And that kind of shocked me because I'm like, you haven't even helped me with any of this. Why are you coming by taking things? Like, you've had time to get whatever you needed. And they were like, yeah, so why he not going? See, at the time, I didn't understand why they were asking. And regardless of what some people think, I don't just put my business out there like that. So I wasn't about to talk to some movers that I don't even know about my situation. So I was just like, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes you just got to do what you have to do. And right now, I believe that God is leading me to do this. And so my focus is taking care of me and my kids. And they were like, okay, he seemed cool though. I was like, yeah, he's nice. And he is. He's a nice guy. And I was just trying to leave it there. But then the movers said, yeah, he told me he lawyered up though. He definitely about to take you for what you got. I was like, what? This is in the middle of trying to move. And I was just like, what are you talking about? I was shocked that a stranger was saying this to me, because why was someone who should be having private conversations with me sharing something like this on this level with a complete stranger that they don't know? Someone who accuses me of constantly putting our business out there, which I don't, was talking to a perfect stranger because they knew that the person would say something to me, and that's what they wanted. So that was a struggle. And I lied to you not, this could have been a movie. I wouldn't, y'all, if you don't know me by now, again, remember this. Sometimes I don't make the videos because I'm scared about what I'm gonna say. I don't want to offend people. I don't want to say too much, but I would not lie. As soon as the guy finished saying that to me, we're outside because I'm like kind of guiding them with loading up the U-Haul truck. I'm approached by a gentleman, never seen him before, middle-aged white man. He's like, are you Crystolyn Macklin? I said, yeah, that's me. And he's like, okay, this is for you. I'm from the law office of blah, 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 blah. And here you go. And the movers were in such shock that they were just talking to me. Sorry, it's a fly. They were just talking to me about what my children's father had said and done. And then this man literally came up and served me with paperwork. I was in complete shock because the thing is, it didn't have to go this way. Now, let me say this. I'm sure he feels the same way. It didn't have to go like this. But my thing is, we should have been talking about this. We could have been communicating about all of this. Don't try to undercut me or do stuff behind my back. You may not be happy about the move, but you knew that it was happening and I didn't lie to you. So let's not turn it into that. So the movers start laughing. They were like, yo, this is like a movie. I never seen anything like this before. They was like, yo, my God, you forgot to say the line. What's the line? They was like, you got to tell her she been served. So he joins in, the man, and he was like, you're right, fellas. Let me tell you. He was like, Ms. Macklin, you've been served. Y'all, I felt like literally it was a movie where I was in standstill and the camera was just wrapping around me as my mouth was open and I had this thick paperwork in my hands telling me that he was petitioning the courts to not allow me to leave the state of Virginia, that our children were in danger being with me, and that he feared for them being in my care, and he was trying to prevent me from literally, legally leaving the state. Anyone who knows me knows how much I love my kids and that I would do anything for them. I'm not a perfect parent. I'm not a perfect person. But to have someone go and have something in writing that says that you are abusive and that they are afraid for their children to be with you when they know that this isn't the truth, I couldn't believe that that was happening. Now, the people around me seemed a little less shocked. They were just like, Chris, what did you think was going to happen? Like, you knew things were going to get bad. And I did. But I'm such an honest person that I'm like trying to talk to this person before we ever get to this point. I'm like, why can't we talk? Like, why can't we plan this? Can we try to do what's best for our kids? And for them to do this was just, I'm not even going into all the details because that wouldn't be appropriate here. But I just couldn't believe that that was happening. So I had that going on. And then I have to get my kids from school. So anyway, y'all, it was a rough day. I feel like I took a long time just to talk about the last day there. But let me say this. I would not have been able to do this without my mom, my older sister, who came through and helped me. My mom was there with me to, again, help us transition to Texas, to come be with us for a while, help us get settled in. And my older sister, you know, I had to drive a U-Haul. Like, I didn't have the resources to just hire movers to completely move us cross country. And it was a lot. So my older sister was so sacrificial in taking time off of work and using her resources to assist me in this move. So my older sister, her oldest son, my nephew, and my mom came and they literally helped me transition from Virginia to Texas. Now, let me back up a little bit more. I have to share what happened about a week before I actually left Virginia. I needed to get transportation. So the vehicle that I'd been driving was me and my children's father's car. It was both of ours. And I'd been driving it since I just had to stop and take some stuff off my phone so I'd have more memory to finish this video. I'm gonna end up probably having to switch locations, but let's see if I can get this out. Like I said, the video is gonna be long. I'm sorry, I need to get it out. So what I was saying was that I was driving the family vehicle. And because I was moving, even though he had 2 other cars at the time that were completely paid off, he's like, well, if you're moving, you're not taking the car. And I was like, I'm like, it's the car I've been driving. Like, it's our car. You have 2 other cars. Why would I not be able to continue to use the car? But once there was not like a real reason and it was just like, you know, you're just not, it was like punishment that you're leaving. I was like, I'm not fussing and arguing about it. God is gonna provide. Jireh, okay? So I was just like, fine. I'm not gonna take the car. Okay, cool. So even though it was coming from a place of malice and spite and vindictiveness, I knew that was not my battle to get into. And so that left me in a position where I needed transportation, okay? So the week before I left Virginia, I was blessed to be able to get a vehicle. I was so glad everything worked out. I really wasn't sure if I was going to be able to. And just financially, I'm like, I'm leaving this job. Mind you, I don't already have something lined up when I go to Texas. It's simply that I am a teacher. I do get paid through the summer. They knew I was leaving. I didn't do anything shady like, oh, keep the teacher pay and then tell them at the last minute that I wasn't returning. They knew, but the way the contract runs, I was still going to get paid through the month of July. So I'm like, that gives me time to find something. Plus, I had already been getting interviews. I told y'all that in another video. But let's move on. I was able to get a vehicle, even though I was nervous. I'm like, how would I be able to afford this? I don't even know like what job I'm gonna have, but I'm like, God, I trust you. I was blessed to be able to get a vehicle. I was so happy about it. I loved that little Volkswagen Tiguan. Like, it was so cute. It had 3 rows. It was exactly what I needed for me and the kids. And that's what we packed up. We packed up the truck and we packed up the U-Haul. And y'all, we hit the road. It was very emotional for me on that trip because I literally felt a spiritual shift as I was leaving. And I think I talked about this in a different video, but just the way that God lined things up for me to be able to get the car, even with U-Haul, I ended up getting a discount, even though I had to pay everything up front. They asked me to tow along on like the back of the U-Haul. They added a trailer with these U-boxes. Have you guys heard of those? They asked me to have that along and share the load basically of someone else's belongings. And if I did that, they would basically cut my whole purchase in half or more. It probably was more. So I'm like, yes, I'll do that. Y'all, that was a difficult thing to do. God bless my sister who drove that U-Haul the majority of the way. So when we get to the place where we're about to cross over, our journey took us from Virginia, Tennessee, Arkansas to Texas. And when I was crossing over to Texas, that was such an emotional time. Like, I was crying. My mom was there just praying for me. I'm so grateful for that moment and her doing that. Like, she took over and had strength in a way that I did not have, as far as like I didn't have words, and I was completely depleted in just every way, y'all. It was a lot. So then also to have that happen the final day that I was leaving Virginia to be served with that paperwork was just a lot. And so we had to be at our new place in Texas by June 1st, because you have to be there to sign the lease. Like, they knew I was driving, and the lease starts June 1st, and they were gonna have to push everything back if I didn't get there at that time, and it was just a whole lot. So we had a deadline to meet. So when we left Virginia, May 31st, we did not stop unless it was for gas, food, or bathroom. We didn't stay overnight anywhere. We just kept driving, and it literally was about a 24-hour journey, a little bit more. It was an insane experience, but I thank God for getting us through that. So we get to Texas June 1st. We arrive right on time. Literally, the rental office was closing at 5 p.m. and I got here at 5 p.m. It might have been 5:01 or 5:02, but they were still in the office because somebody else was also moving in that day. So they had just finished wrapping up and giving them their keys. I had been trying to call them and let them know, I'm en route. I am coming. Please do not leave. Like, me and my family won't have anywhere to go if we get there and you guys are closed. They never answered. So I was just praying that God would work it out, and he did. So, I mean, I guess worst case scenario, we would have stayed in a hotel that night, but I just didn't have like extra money to be playing around with. And so we made it on time, and y'all, that's when things started to go a little bit. So when we got there, I had been asking them, how many of y'all know about unexpected fees just coming out of nowhere? That has just always happened to me for some reason. And thank God, I'm just going to speak life, that is no longer my story. I'm just speaking that into existence, because I'm so tired of every time you think that you're in a good position, something comes along and sabotages it. I'd asked them if everything was good. They promised me it was. There were no hidden fees, no more admin fees, nothing else. Okay. And yet when I got there, oh, well, we still have to, you owe us $250 for X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I asked you all if I was gonna owe anything. And y'all, I think at that time, I only have $500 to my name. And that may sound like, well, at least I had something. Yes. But that 500 was gonna get me groceries for our new place. It was going to get us the supplies we needed as far as cleaning stuff, trash cans, like just little things that we would need. And that took out half of what I had right off the bat. And I wasn't going to be getting paid for like at least another 2 weeks, but it might have been 30 days. I can't remember at this time. The other part of it is that they told me I was going to have the first 8 weeks free. And that's not what happened. They ended up saying, oh, we made a mistake. It's only 6 weeks free. Well, at that point, it's kind of too late for me to cause a fuss about anything. I've already come from across the country. Yes, I said something. Yes, I'm like, well, you guys said that it was going to be 8 weeks. So even from a customer service standpoint, why wouldn't you honor that? And they doubled down. They don't care. Like, it was a mistake. Sorry. It's only 6 weeks free. So that was really annoying. I was like, okay, y'all are already giving me kind of a taste of what I'm going to be dealing with here. Now, I will say I love my apartment. Like, it's nice, but the people who work in the leasing office, I don't know where they got those people from. But anyway, y'all, we got moved in, and it was, I was just grateful to have made it. But it also felt like, what now, God? Like, what now? I start going on interviews. And I shared this in another video. I already had an interview lined up. I arrived there on Saturday, June 1st, right? So I had an interview lined up for that Monday. It was for a teaching position, and they actually offered me the job. But the reason I didn't take the job, y'all, it was so hard. It was because God told me not to. He said, this isn't it. So he told me not to take the job, and I wrestled with that. And I was wrestling with it so much that when the principal called me, because I asked for time to think about it, when they called me to see what my answer was going to be, I said, I literally don't know what to say to you other than I do not feel the release in my spirit to take this. Like, I just moved here because God told me to, and I have to continue to do exactly what he's telling me to do. And I do not feel like this is the door that I'm supposed to walk through, even though I want to walk through this door. And that man was a man of faith. And he just said, Crystolyn, you just keep on doing exactly what the Lord tells you to do. And that just really blessed me so much to hear him say that. Shout out to Travis. So y'all, later on, I found out just a couple weeks later that school was actually going to be shutting down. There are lots of schools, I think all over the US, that are shutting down due to like low attendance rates and things like that. But I did not know that, obviously, about this school. And so here in Texas, there have been so many schools that have closed down or are planning to next school year. This past school year was going to be their final year. And so when I saw, like, it just randomly came across the news. I think my mom is the one that may have saw it first. And she was like, Chris, look at this. And I was like, oh my goodness, God, this is why you told me not to take that job. And again, I couldn't do anything but be grateful for him looking out for me. So we go for the next couple of weeks. I'm going on job interviews. I'm just like really going hard, trying to make sure that I can solidify myself as far as a job is concerned to have us taken care of. And I think that God was just still dealing with me about my trust. Like, girl, like, you gonna let me do this all the way or what? But when all you know is you gotta do what you gotta do, that's what you know. And so I'm not doing it on purpose to like get in God's way. And I have certainly learned so much over the past year, especially, but couple of years. It's just that I don't want to sit back and be lazy. I know that faith without works is dead. So I have to do something. I'm not just going to sit idle. And so that was my point. But I was letting God lead. I really was. And that's when he ended up opening up the door for me to work at my 2 older kids' school for a little bit until I got my work from home job, which, again, super grateful for, super blessed, even though I don't like the job. But I'm super blessed, and I know that somebody out there is thinking, how dare you complain? I'm really not complaining. I'm just being honest that I'm grateful to have a work from home job, but I don't like the job. But I'm grateful for it. God, I thank you for the resource. But that job is not my source. God is. And so I know where my help comes from. And the reason I need the job is because I don't have a car. I don't have transportation. So being able to work from home is not only a blessing, but it is a necessity for me at this time. So let's get back to that, because I told you I got a car before I came here, right? Well, when I got the car, guys, they put 30-day tags on it because it just so happens that when I went there, you know, it's hit or miss. Like if you go to a dealership, sometimes they might go ahead and give you tags. Other times they may not have the person available there to do it. Whoever does the DMV tag situation wasn't available when I got the car. So they gave me 30-day tags. Okay, cool. That's fine. I mean, I knew that within 30 days I wasn't going to be in Virginia anymore, but that wasn't their business. I mean, it's not like I'm breaking the law. So cool. What happened after that was I get a phone call from them starting about a week after I got to Texas. And they're just like, yeah, so have you moved? Because we were notified that you were no longer living in the state of Virginia. I'm sitting here like, how would y'all know? Like, what is going on? I'm gonna let that sit where it's at. But they found out that I moved out of state. So they said that I broke the contract and that I had to give them the car back. I was arguing the point that people move all the time. I didn't do anything wrong when I got the car. I gave you legitimate pay stubs. I told you where I worked, how much I made. I paid for the car. I didn't do anything wrong. They're like, yeah, well, based on what you gave us, you know, you're working for Henrico County Public Schools. I guess maybe I shouldn't have put that out there. But anyway, they're like, you're working for them. So obviously, if you've moved, you're not working for them anymore. I was like, well, technically, I'm still under contract until the end of July. So I don't really see what the problem is here. And I also knew, like, by faith, like, I'm going to have another job by then. So, okay. But long story short, guys, I was harassed for about 3 to 4 weeks before they told me that they were coming to take the car. They were like, you can either bring it back to us or we're going to come get it. I'm like, well, clearly I'm not driving the car back to Virginia. So they ended up retrieving the car. Like, they had an appointment set and everything. By mid-July, they came to retrieve the car because they said I broke the contract. I had never even heard of anything like this. And that was the other thing about that, is they weren't going to send me the dealer tags because they were like, oh, you're not in Virginia, we're not giving you the tag. So I would have even gotten in trouble if I continued to try to drive around on 30-day Virginia tags here in Texas. So it would have become a whole thing. And even then, I didn't fuss. Like, of course, I would try to combat these things with truth. But when I saw that the door was closing, I'm just like, it is what it is. Like, God, have your way. So I didn't fuss about these things the same way that my former spouse told me, you're not taking the car, fine. They telling me they're coming to get the car, fine. My God is going to supply all of my needs. That's just where I was, and it's where I've been on this entire journey. So before they came to get the car, because I knew the time was coming, I made sure I did as much as I could with my kids when we got to Texas. We visited the Dallas Zoo. We tried new restaurants. For the month of June, I volunteered as a vacation Bible school leader at One Community Church. One Community is a great church here in Texas. They have multiple locations. And again, this is the video where I'm just going to be honest, right? So we started going to that church. We found out about it from a man who interviewed me when I was still living in Virginia. I don't know if I shared this part. I think I may have, don't know. But I only knew about One Community because when I was interviewed by a principal before I moved to Texas, he knew my story a little bit as far as going to be relocating. I was, a Christian, all of that. And he's just like, I'm actually in ministry too. Do you have a church that you're going to be going to when you get there? I was like, no idea. I'm just going because God said so. So he told me 2 churches that he recommended. One Community Church was one of them. And so I didn't know anything about One Community. I didn't go there because it was a mega church or huge church. So I went because the person told me about it. And that's how I ended up there. My kids really enjoyed it. But I say this to say, I really immersed myself in One Community when I first got here because I needed community. They have Vacation Bible School starting the end of June and running for a week. And so I'm like, we need something to do. And thank God I had the summer off, y'all. I tell you, this is one of the biggest blessings in my life, that God allowed me to have the summer off with my kids to help us get acclimated to our new space and help us transition. And so at One Community, again, Vacation Bible School, I had my youngest 2 go. My daughter, she was 13, and it was pretty much for 12 and under. If you were 13 and up, you could be a volunteer, but we didn't know them like that, right? So she didn't volunteer until the very last day, and she loved it. She's like, I should have been here the whole time. But anyway, my 2 sons went, and they had a good time, and it was just something to help us get used to our new environment. And it was a beautiful space. I will just say it never felt like my church home. It's a great place, but it's a little too by the program for me. They do a lot of wonderful things. I would even say visit and see how it is if you're in the area. But for me, I'm just talking about me because we all have different needs. It's not a church that I could go to and call my home, because I don't see where there's enough room left for the Holy Spirit to have his way. But that's a whole other conversation. I'm not here to shade them, any of that. But while I'm at it, let me go ahead and just share this. While I was attending One Community, which I was attending there from June to August, they also launched a new campus in McKinney, which is where I moved. So I'm in the DFW area. I say Dallas because I've been trying to keep my business to myself, right? But I'm specifically in McKinney, Texas. One Community Church, from the first time I visited, they said that they were launching a campus in McKinney, which was 5 minutes from my house. And I knew that part of me coming to Texas was based on ministry. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel like this is really where I'm supposed to at least start off as far as serving. That's how I felt. And the truth is, that is what I did. I served there from basically June to August. What else is I gonna say? Hopefully it'll come back to me. So anyway, I signed up for Vacation Bible School to help with them. And I would just say there were some people who made me feel very welcome. And then there were other people who kind of have this attitude, like a lot of church folks do, of who's this new person? Who do they think they are? I don't know why people act like that, y'all. Like what is going on where people act like that? I was tithing to this church while I was there because I was determined, like, God, you have done so much for me. I'm not going to ever pull back on what I give to you because I know that you are here and doing everything for me. So this is me saying, my finances are shaky right now, but I trust you with them, right? So again, whole other conversation there. Let me say this too. The very first time that I visited One Community Church, my youngest son, Corbin, he was very fixated on a demonstration that took place during the sermon. We went on a Saturday, June the 8th. It was literally a week after we moved there that we attended the first time, and we have been going there ever since through August. Even when I lost my car in July, I was still attending in August and serving, but we'll get to that. So the pastor was demonstrating with a cupcake on the stage because he was just talking about, God putting stuff together. And my son really wanted a cupcake. And I was like, if you want it, you're going to have to ask for it. My mom also wanted to just speak to the pastor. The message really resonated with us at that time as far as just the transition. And so we went to just after the service say hello. And then Corbin, who was 4 at the time, he wanted a cupcake and they let him have one, y'all. Highlighted his day. And so the pastor, he was just like, oh, like hearing a little bit about my story, how I just moved here, how I've been involved in ministry. He's like, oh my gosh, like let's get her phone number. We got to be in touch with her. Long story short, I ain't never heard from the people, but that's okay. All right. Because I'm always like, God, lead me and guide me by your spirit. You let me connect with the people that you want me to connect with. And if I'm not supposed to, then it's just not going to happen. So I'm not going to feel a way about it. I'm just saying people are funny. I started serving Vacation Bible School, did that. Y'all, some of those kids I will never forget. And I love them so much. Like the way that I was able to just pour into these babies, like it was one of the best experiences of my life to be able to do that. So super glad that happened. And then I started serving on the McKinney launch team. They were launching a new campus in McKinney. And man, I'm telling y'all, I was at that church at least 4 days out of the week, serving in different capacities, going to this meeting, doing this, doing that. And so when July came around, it's important to note this because when July came around and my apartment complex tells me that I only had the 6 weeks free rent, not 8 weeks. So I moved in on June the 1st. And I had 6 weeks free, not 8. When originally, when I was moving there, I was supposed to have 8 weeks free, which meant that I wasn't going to have to start paying rent until August, right? You following me? So at this point, they're telling me that, no, you're still going to have to pay July rent. And it's just going to be reduced a little bit because you'll technically have like 2 weeks off for July. This really messed me up because, again, I wasn't going to be getting but a certain amount of money at a certain amount of time. And I had already planned out that I wasn't going to have to pay July. It's not that I wouldn't have the money coming in at some point, but when I was supposed to pay it, I didn't have it for July because it wasn't what I hadn't factored that in because it wasn't what they said. So anyway, July comes around and by July, like by the 3rd day of the month, if they don't have the rent, you're getting an eviction notice. And so I literally got an eviction notice in July just because of the misunderstanding on their part. And then I told them, well, I'm going to have it to you next week, but I do have to wait until I have blah, 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 right? And they did not care. They did not care. They were ready to go ahead and start evicting and putting me out. And I was like, God, there is no way that you brought me here for this. So y'all, I didn't know what to do. I ended up reaching out to the church and telling them about the situation. And I was just like, I understand, like, you guys don't know me like that. I just moved here. I would never just come and ask for something, but I don't know what else to do because I don't have community here. My family we don't have it like that to just be giving me money for my rent. It was just a lot. People started criticizing, not that a lot of people knew, but like, see, you was being too hasty. God didn't tell you to do this. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, what is going on? So I contact the church. I ask for their help and I tell them, I will pay it back. I just want to know if you can cover it for me until I can get the funds next week, because they're ready to go ahead and just start this process. And it turned into, well, are you a member here? Because I don't see you on the list of people who have done the right hand of fellowship. And if you haven't done the right hand of fellowship, then we are not obligated to help you. And what is going on? And why would you move to Texas and you didn't have this lined up? And I just could not believe. Maybe y'all are thinking the same thing. And if so, I really don't care, because I know for a fact that I was following the Lord, and what he's told me to do, I've done it to the best of my ability. That does not mean that I'm perfect. I have gotten things wrong, but God would rather see you trying to do the right thing and make a mistake than to stay stuck in fear or not moving at all. And so I just want to say, Crystolyn, I'm proud of you, because against all odds and with every valid excuse that you had, you could have been like, I'm not doing this. And you did it anyway. So I'm proud of me because my Father is proud of me. And so they ended up telling me, like, I'm sorry, but you're not a member. And I said, not being a member, like, after talking to somebody who was being sassy with me for a while, I don't think I was rude, but I did say, not being a member didn't stop me from serving in Vacation Bible School. Y'all didn't care about me being around these kids and leading them and leaving them in my care when I wasn't a member then. Y'all certainly been taking my tithe since I've been here. So I was just like, I'm a little confused at the politics right now. Like, I get it. Y'all have to protect yourselves from people who are just using you. But I would think that maybe by the Spirit, you would understand that that's not me. So what they did is, I guess they calculated all that I had sent them from my tithe. And I would say in total, I probably had sent them about $300 worth of tithe. And I'm only sharing this because of the stuff that I'm saying right now. So because of that, they sent me a $150 gift card to Walmart. I will say that. They looked at what I had given them, and I guess they said, okay, well, she has given something. So they sent me a gift card for $150. Thank you, One Community, for doing that. But I also feel like it was like, all right, take this since you did this. It felt that way. And there are some people from that church who have been very kind to my family, very lovely people. I will never forget the Hubbards. Shout out to Robin and Gary Hubbard, who I met at One Community on the McKinney launch team, who also lived in Virginia at one point, the same area that I'm from. So that was wild. And shout out to Kia. She's also a young lady from Virginia who's been here for quite some time. We connected. And she even picked me and my kids up for church one day when I did lose transportation. But at that point, I just knew that God was saying, this is not your church home, because it would feel like a family if it was, and it didn't feel that way. Although he still allowed people with gracious hearts to be a blessing to us at different times. So I'm so grateful for that. So anyway, y'all, July was rough, got an eviction notice, and I was just like pouring out to God. Like, there is no way you brought me here for this. Like, if this is what it's going to look like, this is not where I want to be. Like, what is going on? Like, I trust you, Lord. I really do. But this is not how I want to start off. And so let me just tell you a praise report, insert this real fast. Not a one time since July have I ever been late on the rent or missed a payment. And I thank God for his provision. I thank him for every person. I've never asked a single person to give me money to supply my needs here. I have gone to God. And as God has placed it on people's hearts to be a blessing to me, my needs have been able to be taken care of. Me and my children have been able to be taken care of because I've gone to my Father first. And I want somebody to really hear that, because you don't have to go around begging. You don't have to go around asking people to do things. That just trust God. Now I have to share this. There was a time that I put out a situation that I was in. This was not due to housing though. And so I guess we'll go ahead and go here. July was rough. Once I got through the whole, they got paid, I wasn't gonna get evicted and all of that. And I didn't tell my kids what was going on because of course this is a lot of change happening for them. And I needed them to just feel stable and secure, which they did. It's a lot of change though. We are now approaching, the end of July. And I get a phone call, I believe it was July 31st. And it was evening time. It was literally about 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I remember being at the pool with my kids. And I got a phone call from a Virginia number that kind of looked familiar. So I was like, let me answer. I picked it up and it was a guardian ad litem. For those of you who do not know, that is a lawyer, that is an attorney who is hired to be an advocate on behalf of children when their parents are in the middle of a custody battle. I got a call from the guardian ad litem who said to me, and she was not very friendly, Miss Macklin, are you aware that you are supposed to report to court tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.? I'm like, that's 12 hours from now. Like, no, I haven't gotten a letter. And I did a change of address before I moved to Texas. I did a change of address. So all of my mail should have been coming. They didn't send anything. And then of course their dad didn't say anything because why would he? He wanted it to look bad on my part because he was upset. And I get that. A friend of mine had shared with me when I was served with the paperwork, she was like, okay, well, listen, I even prayed. Let me tell you this. I prayed and I was like, God, what do you want me to do? Do you not want me to leave Virginia? Because I wasn't trying to get in any kind of legal trouble. I wasn't trying to make anything difficult for my kids. I really wasn't, y'all. I was simply trying to follow the Lord. I was simply trying to do what he said. And that may not make sense to anybody else, but that's what I was doing. So I had a friend who told me, you still do what you got to do. They can always conference you in on a court call. Like they can Zoom you in, they can do that. You don't have to physically be there. So that came back to me in that moment when the guardian ad litem was on the phone. And I said, there's absolutely no way that I'm just going to be able to make it there tomorrow. I didn't even know about this. And the only reason she had a little bit of mercy is because she realized like nobody had told me. The other part of it is she hadn't called to check on the kids. So the thing is, you're calling the evening before the court case just to say you did when you know you haven't been checking on the kids. So she decided to let me, she was like, we'll just do a phone conference. And I'm the one that said, I will put you on the phone with my kids right now. You can talk to them. Like, I didn't try to stand in the way of anything. And she just could see that I was being genuine and honest. She talked to my kids. I didn't tell them what to say. I had been trying to shield them from all of this. But after they had to speak to her, I had to get a little bit more open about what was going on. I had to explain what was happening in court because if y'all are going to be contacted by a guardian ad litem who could call at random times asking to speak to you, they need to know who this person is and they need to know why they're calling. So I had to start having some difficult conversations with my kids that I didn't really want to have, but I felt like I had no choice. So I was due in court the next day. They allowed me to phone in. And what she said to me before the call ended was, you know, what you did was really not okay, just up and leaving the state. I said, I consulted with authorities and legally before leaving Virginia to make sure that I wasn't breaking the law. She said, well, no, you weren't breaking the law. However, the way that you went about this, according to their father, was all wrong. And you need to be prepared to bring them back to Virginia immediately. I was floored. Like, I was just like, what in the world? And in that moment, I heard God say, are you still going to believe me? Are you still going to believe that I led you here, that I told you to do this, even when all hell is breaking loose? So what ends up happening is the following day, we had our first court case regarding me moving and all of this custody stuff. And it was such an ugly part, y'all, this whole thing. But I want to be transparent and I want to be, I ain't gonna share everything, but I want to share because People need to know that this was not all just an easy thing. And somebody might be out here experiencing the same thing, and they need to know that they're not alone. And it is so important that when you're being led by God, that you really listen to him, that you're led by his spirit, and that you follow his instructions for you, because he's gonna make sure that you're covered. I went to court, and the other thing I said, and she said, because the father is saying that you didn't notify him that you were taking his children away. I said, that's not true. She said, well, do you have proof? So I said, yes, I do. Y'all, I could not sleep that night. I stayed up all night sending documentation. I'm going to keep this short. Documentation to the guardian ad litem showing that this was not a surprise. This was not a sneak attack on my part. This was no out of nowhere up and abandon and take the kids away from him. But that's how it was being framed. And so in court, oh, thank you, Lord. She ended up telling the judge, and I'm just fast forwarding through this part. She's like, Your Honor, at this point, I can't make a recommendation because, y'all, they were prepared to tell me to bring the kids back, because they're like, the kids are born and raised in Virginia. Why would you just up and leave? I'm like, this is too much to explain in one setting. The guardian ad litem ended up telling the judge, Your Honor, Miss Macklin was able to send me sufficient documentation in a very short amount of time to prove and back up why this move happened, that it was not by surprise, that she had given adequate notice, and that the father was aware. So at this time, I do not think that we can make a determination, because they were ready to make a decision that day, bring the kids back, boom, that's it. She said, there's no way that we can decide this right now. We're going to have to come back to this later on. So I was just praying, because my kids were literally starting school a week after that date. And so my biggest thing was just, please do not have the next court date on the first day of school, because if they start school and then y'all rip them out and say that they can't go, plus I was working at the school too, so I would be missing the first day of school. Y'all, they did not care. They told me that we were going to reconvene a week later on August the 8th. I hope I got the date right. We had the first court date. She called July 31st. First court date was August 1st. The next one was going to be August the 8th. That was the first day of school. Okay, so the other thing that was interesting, and y'all, there's just no way I could tell all of this story at one time. I guess I'm going to have to make a part 2 unless I can speed through the rest of this really quickly. The guardian ad litem was actually a friend of the family on my children's father's side. So to be perfectly honest with you, I think that when the case was taken, because mind you, I don't have an average name. No offense to anyone that has a common or average name like an Ashley Smith, but what I'm saying is my name is not Ashley Smith. There's not a bunch of us out here. My name is Crystolyn Macklin, and the way that it's spelled is not common. So I say that to say this lady knew exactly who I was. And I think that they thought they were going to have the upper hand because the guardian ad litem was a friend of the family. But I'm here to tell somebody that when the judge, the righteous judge, meaning God, our Father, is on your side, it doesn't matter who people think they have lined up, their schemes are not going to work. By the time I sent in all that documentation and showed that I had proof and many reasons for why this move was taking place, the guardian ad litem also at the end of all of that said, Your Honor, we need to push this back. They pushed it back a week. We were going to reconvene. She also said, I have to recluse myself from this case because I'm too close to it. Turns out I am close friends with the father's sister, and so I can no longer be a part of this case. I already knew that that was what was going on, but I knew that God was going to be there with me. So we get a new guardian ad litem. And at this point, I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. So now this guardian ad litem has to be introduced to the kids, and I'm putting them on FaceTime calls with her. And it's just a lot. This is the stuff that I never wanted. If we had just simply communicated with each other and worked together, it would have never had to be like this. And that is the God honest truth. But because there was so much emotion and stuff involved on both sides, It didn't happen. And it makes me sad because I just never wanted that for my kids. But thank God for his covering and his grace. Because when I tell you he looked out for me, God was with me every step of the way. Let's get to August 8th. We go back to court. This is D-Day, y'all. This was determination day. This was the day I was going to find out. First of all, it was my kids' first day of school. At this point, they were looking forward to starting a new school and starting a new chapter. This was a big deal. My little one was starting kindergarten. My middle son was starting middle school. He was going to 6th grade. And my oldest, my daughter, was going to 8th grade, starting her last day of middle school. It was a lot, and they were so excited about it. And then to know that something was lingering in the air as to whether or not they were going to stay here really did put a damper on things for a moment. But I just truly thank God for all he's done. Thank you, Jesus. So it was determined at that time, guys, with everything that I had shared, and because the children were doing well, that they decided the children can stay, but it was temporary because they were going to make us go to trial. We were going to have a custody trial a few months later. But then that ended up getting pushed back to like way later in the spring. And so ultimately the kids were going to be here all school year. Now I'll fast forward and just tell you that the kids ended up, it was determined that they were going to just stay with me, that we share custody, but physically they were going to remain with me. And so by the time all of that was decided, their father and I have gotten on better terms. We have communicated so much better. And I'm trying not to speed through this, but I also know this is a long video, but I'm just throwing some hope in here that what looks so ugly in the beginning, it does not always stay that way. And so I'll come back with a part 2.